Greetings, curious acolytes of the galaxy, and welcome back to the archives. We've been taking a look into the inner workings of the Eternal Empire as well as the Eternal family as of late. And today we wanted to focus specifically on the meat of the Eternal Empire, the actual empire itself. More specifically, the people and the planet of Zakul. This planet is in wild space and was in the exact system that Vitiate specifically chose to rebuild his grand empire in after his resurrection. Zakul and the Eternal Fleet would be the two tools that allowed the Emperor and his children to completely dominate the galaxy when they came from the shadows of the unknown regions, and made themselves known to the Jedi as well as the Sith. What we wanted to do in this video though, was actually discuss the planet and society of Zakul, the powers of the Knights of Zakul, as well as measure the capabilities of the Eternal Fleet to see what made them so indomitable, and analyze why Zakul was such a terrifying threat to the Republic, as well as why its fighters frequently outclassed both Jedi and Sith. First though, in anticipation of Black Friday, we're having a huge sale on the Star Wars merch page, where you can get up to 40% off basically everything. At checkout, if you use code WAVE, also you can get an additional 15% off your order. But anyway, my friends, and acolytes of the Force, now, let us begin and dive deep into the archives of the Eternal Empire. Zakul originally was a backwater planet that resided in the depths of wild space. Most of the planet was lush and green, with a significant portion of it being swamplands. Originally, it was inhabited by a people known as the Builders of Ikoath. These precursor beings were much like the Celestials as well as the Rakata, as they were responsible for creating a great deal of super weapons as well as artificial powers. Early in its history, Zakul was conquered by the Builders of Ikoath and was meant to be used as one of the many worlds and live testing sites for their weapons. A pilgrim group of humans though eventually immigrated to the planet and lived there, becoming a superstitious people who lived in the tribes led by the three Force-sensitive leaders. These would become the native Zakulans who would wage war with the Builders of Ikoath for the dominion of the world. For a long time, the Builders of Ikoath held the upper hand, as they were the ones who actually created the Eternal Fleet, the weapon that Darth Vitiate would later utilize to great effect. Eventually though, the Zakulans used the mysterious alien war vessel known as the Gravestone to vanquish enough of the Eternal Fleet to liberate Zakul. The Builders of Ikoath disappeared, and the Eternal Fleet was shut down. The Zakulans had become nihilistic people who worshipped a pantheon of gods. Chief among them was Isaacs, the god of death and ultimate devourer, who expressed his power through the pain and suffering of his followers. The people believed their fate was tied to the old gods, but a prophecy was made that said that a demon savior would arise and rise above the pantheon and slay Isaacs, bringing about a new era for the empire. Several centuries later, the spirit of Darth Vitiate appeared on the world after having been tempted by rumors about the Eternal Fleet and its limitless power. After this, Darth Vitiate possessed the body of a well-renowned warrior named Valkorion and established himself by claiming to be the demon savior of their legends, taking advantage of their culture in order to become their ultimate emperor and leader. From here, he built his empire on the world of Zakul, putting his people to work to creating a massive space station known as the Spire. The whole undertaking actually helped their economy massively, and every citizen of the Eternal Empire was living the high life in great wealth, with the average person basically being as wealthy as an upper-class citizen on even a world such as Coruscant. Eventually, most of the people in the Eternal Empire moved off of the world of Zakul and entered the Starscraper known as the Spire, where Emperor Valkorion, formerly Vitiate, ruled. Valkorion took full control over the Eternal Fleet following this, and began to raise an army of his own from the most able-bodied, as well as Force-sensitive people of the world of Zakul, creating an extremely powerful military force known as the Knights of Zakul. The Knights of Zakul served to protect their emperor, and enforce justice throughout the empire. The Knights of Zakul operated much differently than the Jedi or the Sith did. They stressed the importance of a knight exploring their personal connection to the Force, and they believed that no areas of the Force were off limits for knights, and that they need to study all of them in the pursuit of power, light, and dark, essentially becoming dark gray Jedi of sorts. The Knights of Zakul were allowed to study both the light and dark sides of the Force in whatever capacity suited the individual knight. Some of the knights were even encouraged to continue their study towards ultimate power. However, the knights were encouraged to share their findings with the rest of the order, rather than hoarding the information for themselves, building up an empire and not an individual. I believe that this is one of the changes made by Vitiate, who understood the weaknesses of hoarding knowledge as he saw how it made the Sith weak, and he ensured that his knights would always be strong by making sure they all had fair access to all knowledge and gifts of the Force. In fact, the Emperor bolstered their power by tying their powers to his very own. This made him like a Force battery for the Knights. The closer they were to Valkorion, the stronger they would be within the Force. But the gifts of the Force is not all the people of Zakul and their Knights had to offer. Outfitted with cybernetically enhanced armor, plasma shields, and blue lightsaber pikes, the Knights of Zakul were absolutely deadly on the battlefield, something we get to see a lot during the raids of the Eternal Empire under Arcan and Thexan, when the Empire first joined the Great Galactic War. For scaling purposes, the typical Knight of Zakul was easily the same level as an average Jedi Knight or a Sith Acolyte. Very good, considering that these guys were the bulk of the Eternal Army. That's like having an army where Jedi Knights are your regular foot soldiers. Speaking of the war, it's time to actually talk about the poster child of the Empire, the Eternal Fleet, which is its most powerful asset. This is the thing that is talked about the most when concerning the success of the Eternal Empire. The whole thing about the fleet was that much like the fleet created by the Starforged, they were made by some unknown alien technology that superseded anything of its time. The ships of the Eternal Fleet were better in just about every way to everyone else's dreadnoughts. They were equipped with cloaking devices, and their shields and armament were generally far more powerful than what the Republic and Sith fleets had within their ranks. The ships in the Eternal Fleet were also much faster, so fast that only ships that were re-outfitted with the best starship core in the galaxy, a substance known as the Isotype 5, could keep up with the Eternal Empire fleets. This superior mobility and unknown design granted the Eternal Fleet every advantage in direct confrontation. What's more is that the ships were all piloted by sentient droids, which meant that their calculations were always extremely accurate, to where they could overwhelm almost any opposing force, no matter how much practice or how skilled. By lining up the vessels in a precisely calibrated array of formation, the fleet could release a powerful combined attack. If one of the arranged vessels was destroyed while charging, they would all violently explode, destroying anything within the blast radius in one all-out final supernova. And so, my friends, this was the mighty power wielded by the Eternal Empire during the time of the Great Galactic War. It's now not so hard to see how they managed to actually rule the galaxy for a time when Arcan was Emperor. The sheer power held by the Eternal Fleet and the Knights of Zakul is unparalleled to anything else we've ever seen in galactic history. I would actually go as far to say that it would require the power of the Galactic Imperial Fleet with Grand Admiral Thrawn using the power of the Death Star to be able to contend with the Eternal Empire in a head-to-head engagement. The Eternal Empire is perhaps the most powerful in all of Star Wars lore. While that might be a slight exaggeration, we would love to know what your thoughts are on the power of the Eternal Empire, as we will be continuing our series talking about the Eternal Throne. So be sure to keep an eye out for more videos just like this one as we break down its history and power from its individuals that led it to its very army. Until then, may the Force be with you, and kneel before the Dragon of Zakul.